Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 23rd. Well, the market stabilized within the dip, within the range. Not a big deal. Still fading. So getting a complete reset, which is interesting as we head towards the end of the month. You'll end up with a complete reset of MBI reading, and also from a DOC standpoint, you'll be at the bottom, but you also have a full reset of the steel. So everything will be in alignment for potential buyers to drive things up, but they just may not have collected all the shorts. And of course, there's still the general uncertainty because you have the two camps, each suggesting that different things are going to happen. And so far, the readings have not supported the dark side of things, but it has to be because their models tell them it should be, because that's the way they see economies, and therefore tariffs must cause inflation. And we haven't seen it yet, but hey, just give it time. Give it time. Well, from a Nasdaq standpoint, you can see so much stronger. Not anywhere near the decline, nor even the amount of MBI white short interest increase. So from that standpoint, things are pretty clear. The DOC spread still was pretty strong. What you need to see now is an orange dip all the way back down below red in order to see any relative strength in a buy setup from that configuration. And as these two meet here in the I guess you call it the middle blue to the gold, becomes an interesting one because again the shakeout has to remain positive, or you're going to get your breakdown, and that will lead to at least 50% or more. As long as it stays above that, and as soon as we see our first uptick, that's your cue that the turnaround has happened. You see it intraday, but you're going to have a lot of back and forth at this particular time while that resolves and things modify. And of course, treasuries from that standpoint backing off from their peak yield. But again, it's an interesting one because I don't see why anyone elsewhere in the world, where else you're going to get the kind of yield you're getting from U.S. treasuries. I mean, it's very attractive at this particular stage. Oil moving in the right direction. So as long as it continues, obviously, ideal would be to move head towards the lower part of the 50s, and you keep that there for a month or two, and boy, things would shift dramatically. From a euro standpoint, they're still buying it. They like it, even though they're talking about lower rates and everything. They still keep their money in Europe. I know it's funny. The gold standpoint, still enough support in there, and of course, nothing's changed from the world front, so there's no real added systemic threat or anything, but it's just this idea that inflation, stagflation in that construct is still there, and that's being reflected in your Bitcoin and that nice moves. And just a continuation, this is that idea that the best store of value is outside any fiat currency, and that's a problem for mainstream currencies because eventually. It's just a question of can you move it into more mainstream? And you see countries moving into it in the third world. So that's an interesting one because for them, it's a great way to fight inflation and have a hedge against it, particularly for their own currency devaluation, not so much from a dollar or your bigger currencies, but doesn't mean they aren't going to utilize them. From ETH standpoint, still well behind where Bitcoin is. Of course, that's going to depend on this idea of tokenization and whether they have a favorable environment now compared to what they had the last 4 years. From the 50K, well, we had the MBI white moving, but you didn't get your corresponding dip to the zero. So once magenta popped back up, you would look for it at this particular stage, and still should come into play, given where we have with the white MBI leading in that. So if we don't see that zero, then you're going to get a strong move to the upside. So that becomes the intraday marker for a turnaround. So keep an eye on that one, but should resolve down to that low to fill it. And he's pretty darn close to it. From an intraday, you can see this is where it gets a little bit more erratic. And this was, the call and put buying shifting around, and that's kind of moving that market to stabilize dealers from their standpoint, trying to neutralize all the the gamma and everything, and just have it wipe out here for the final day. So we already saw a big move up here in Europe. They faded it all the way 100%, obviously, in an option closeout situation as well. And so we'll see that play out during the day for U.S. markets. But then, interestingly, because I think that towards the middle part of the day is where you will start to see the setup for next week, and that will give me a big clue as to the direction. And if we start to see buyers jumping in, buying calls and everything for the following week to come up, then that will change the dynamic as to what we see for next week as it starts out. As always, though, that's the long and the short of it, and I will update anything on the team chat. Have a good one. Trade well.